So did that make you think, well, if I want to be powerful, I got to run for elected office? And did you consider that many times?
I thought about it, but I was more interested in, I got the journalism bug early, and I wanted to make my own way. I think if you grow up in a really competitive family that's, well-known, that's famous, that's very clannish, you either if you want to breathe, you got to get out. And I mean that, if you want to kind of find yourself in a way, you got to get out. And so for me, journalism was a way out. And it was, when I traveled on my father's vice presidential campaign, I would sit in the back because all the people who were working with him were in the front. And the people in the back seemed to be having all the fun. The people in the back seemed to be, in their own way, controlling what happened to the people in front. And I took note of that and said, I think I'm going to go to the back. And I think I'm going to play with the people in the front in a different way. And so for me, journalism, because I was always a curious person, it was a way for me to do something different in my family. And I thought it would help me find my own identity, separate from being part of this larger group of people with big teeth and big hair, and so I was, because
I think my teeth are bigger, but whatever.
Are they? They are. Maybe, I don't know. But I was really determined to kind of find my own way, do my own thing, and get as far away from politics as possible.
Yeah.
Then I ended up right back in it.
Speaking of powerful women, tell these guys about Joan Chittister.
Oh, well, Joan Chittister is a great friend of mine. That's good you asked me about her. She's a great friend of mine, and I quote her in this book. And she's a Benedictine nun, has written I don't know how many books, 20-some books. And she's a social justice agent. She's one of the most outspoken women in the Catholic faith. And she has been a motivator, inspiration to me as a Catholic, as someone who's pushed up against parts of the Catholic Church. I'm the only person in my family who wasn't an altar boy. And, but I was educated by the nuns and later by the Jesuits. I'm a theology minor at Georgetown. And so I've always been interested. Both of my parents went to Mass every day until their death. And so it's a big part of my life, but I also have a lot of disagreements with the church. And so she has been she was a good friend of my mother, and she has become a deep friend of mine. And I write in there, I went to, when I got separated, I went to 2 different convents to live for a while. And one was her. And I went and lived in her community and in her convent. And I learned a lot about kind of the community of women, community of nuns. I write in the chapter about what nuns taught me about power and how it helped to change my perception of power. And the book is really a lot about me reevaluating and changing my thought and my thinking from when I was 20, 30, and beyond about these things that we're told. If you go and get a best-selling book and anchor a show, you'll feel successful, you'll feel like you're someone, and how we're kind of buy into the structure of what is success, what is power, who is powerful, what do you have to do to be powerful, to be successful. And I really learned by kind of being in community with nuns how incredibly internally powerful they are. And they make no money, and they're working in our neighborhoods all across this country in social justice in deep ways. And I just love hanging with nuns. I went to the convent when I was young, and I remember the nuns, and they were in habits, and they would say, Wash, I was just a young girl like you, and all of a sudden one day, Jesus came and appeared to me in my room and said, I want you to be a nun. And I was like, wow, really? And then I'd go home and I'm like, don't come in here, please don't come in here. And I was like, please. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, don't come in, please don't appear to me. Because, you had all these stories about, everybody appearing to these kids. I was like, don't come in here. Yeah. But and then I was just like, oh, and my favorite movie was The Sound of Music, and I was really interested. And I thought, I'm Maria, so then I married an Austrian, I got it all mixed up. It was like, and so I was just like, wow. but I find that I'm really, when I've gone to, as I said, when I went to these convents and when I'm in the presence of those women, I feel this incredible calm.
Sure.
And just a total, like, but I can breathe, peace. And I find that with a lot of people, like Thomas Keating, who also is a friend of mine, who's the kind of author of Centering Prayer. He's in a monastery up in Aspen. I went to visit with him. He's 94. And I sit across from people like that who are so wise and so calm and so inspiring. And I just feel like when I'm in their presence.